Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to continue with the case of a Kazakhstan ex-minister beating his wife to death for 8 hours, and we have already listened to half of it, which you will find in another channel. If you haven't, go check that one out, and we will start with the case. We will continue with the case because it's heartbreaking, and let's get into the video.
He wasn't crying, he was screaming. Why don't you care about how I feel? I picked them out. I wanted to see them open it. He did think it's a very red flag, and he saw it as a strong, like, okay, I need to keep my eye out on this guy. But he was not connecting it as he is hitting my sister. Yeah, and he wasn't ever getting in front of Sultanat's face. Like, it wasn't anything like that. But Aytbek decided ever since that day, he was going to keep an eye on Bishanbayev. Likely every few seconds on the drive there, Sultanat's brother, Aytbek, is trying to calm down his own emotions because now, 3 months later, he's gotten that picture of his sister with the 2 black eyes and he was, quote, crazy mad. But he needs to stay focused on his goal, which is to drive over to Bishanbayev and Sultanat's home, bring home Sultanat. That's it. Nothing else matters. Sultanat's brother arrives at Bishanbayev's house and he's staring at Bishanbayev, whose body language is so relaxed. Infuriatingly relaxed. Why is he not freaking out? Where is Sultanat? Bishanbayev just shrugs. I don't know. Aytbek said it was completely mind-blowing at this point. What do you mean you don't know where my sister is? I'm on her Find My iPhone and it's telling me that she's in the apartment, but you're telling me she's not in the apartment, so where is she? What do you mean you don't know? He gets into the apartment, searches the entire place. She's not in there. And the whole time, Bishanbayev is calm, just like, yeah, well, how would I know? And that calmness is making Aytbek even more emotional. His sister is missing. The last thing he saw of her were pictures of her completely bruised face. Why the hell is Bishanbayev, her own husband, so calm? It's driving him mad. Aytbek is searching the entire place. And Bishanbayev, I think even if I knew a stranger was missing, I would have more emotions than him. That is till Sultanat's brother calls Bishanbayev's mom. And he says, your son, your criminal, beat his wife and now she's missing. This is when Bishanbayev is no longer calm. Because there's only 2 things in the world that Bishanbayev cares about. 1, what the public thinks of him. And 2, what his mommy thinks of him.
Okay, he's a mama boy.
Wow.
Bishanbayev starts going off on Aytbek. Don't get involved. It's not your business. This is our family. It's our relationship. She's part of my family now. She's no longer yours.
do you
Basically
mean?
saying Sultanat is no longer part of his family because she's now Bishanbayev's wife. It's the very traditional, when you get
Yeah.
married, the wife becomes the husband's.
Yeah. This is a thing in our culture as well. When you get married, you no longer belong to this house, and
family. He's trying to pull Aytbek out of the apartment, trying to forcibly push him out, yanking his arm. And there was an altercation. The night of March, now it's March 21st, 2023. And it has been described as a tornado. The 2 turn into a tornado in that apartment. They're holding onto each other, throwing each other onto the wall, the ground, breaking glass doors. Sultanat's brother doesn't really remember too much from that fight, except at one point, it just stopped because he wanted to continue looking for his sister. She was somewhere in this building and he was sure of it. He said, I thought she was dying. My sister sends photos like this and now she's nowhere to be found. He starts storming through the entire upscale condo building. He does not care if he's disturbing the residents. He needs to find his baby sister. The whole apartment building is incredibly well made, meaning the whole place is soundproof. The doors are thick and massive. Once you're inside of a unit, you can barely hear what's going on in the hallway. Aytbek already went through Bishanbayev's entire apartment, but he knows that Bishanbayev's mom, like I said, lives 2 floors down. So he's running down the stairs, banging on the door. Nobody's answering. He's jiggling the door handle. He's kicking it until it completely breaks off, and now there's just a hole in the door where the door handle used to be.
Wow.
He's trying to kick open the door and screaming into the circular opening of the door. Finally, it opens, and Aytbek is staring at his little sister.
oh,
But it's not his little sister. Like, some people you walk around and you're like, wow, that person is so alive. Like, I know it sounds weird to say because technically we're all alive if we're walking
And I
around,
think
but some people
she's gonna send her brother back because the mom talked to her, and
They look sleepy, tired, bored. Others, they look like they're over it. She looks like the embodiment of life. That is how people describe Sultanat. Even when she was a kid, oh my god, okay, so she had this bright acid orange jumpsuit that you could not pay her to take off. It was the color of a creamsicle. But the worst part is, it's made out of like the rainproof windbreaker material. So every time she would walk, it would just... And she had these bright orange bangs to match with it. And it doesn't matter if people were making fun of her walking around like a creamsicle, or if her older brother was annoyed at the... or if the whole house knew where she was because of how loud it was. She loved that jumpsuit. She would not take it off. Sultanat's friend said, she's very brave, like very independent, self-sufficient. She always had her own opinion about everything. She was one of those few people that always clearly knew what she wanted and set very firm boundaries, but in a very kind way. Stubborn independence. That's how the Nukianovas raise their children. I mean, you make your own decisions, you do what you choose, but you never forget that you are responsible at the end of the day. Like every choice you make, every decision you make, that's gonna be on you. So growing up, Sultanat was very interested in understanding how to improve the way one experiences life. She read psychology books, attended conferences for self-growth, evolving your character, and a lot of these centers around being independent and knowing what you want. She is described to have this fix-it attitude. You don't like something about your life? Fix it. You don't like something about your situation?
She's
Fix
beautiful.
it. Except now, standing
how
in front of
many times
Aybek
I said
in
it.
this doorway, all of that is gone. I mean, she no longer has this crazy fighter spirit. She seems timid. She's like hugging herself, holding the door open. He did notice that the bruises on her face were...
We do have someone like that in our family, someone who's just so full of life that whenever you come in presence of that person, your whole mood is lifted up. And when that person becomes like how she is describing Sultanat to be, I cannot imagine how difficult it must be for her brother.
now brown, so almost healed, but they're just giant blotches on her face. The picture she sent him earlier that day had been from a week or two ago. But again, none of that matters. She's just staring at him. Her eyes seem empty, and Aybek is ready to walk inside. Come on, pack your things. We're leaving. We're going home. And she just stops him. Please just stay out of it. I'm not leaving with you. I want to figure this out myself. This is my life and my marriage, and I'm committed to it, and it's not perfect, but I can save it. Aybek is staring at her like she's lost her mind. I mean, he probably feels just so angry at what Bishanbay did to his sister, but also so frustrated that she's not getting it because he shouts, please, he's gonna kill you if you stay. But she just stares at her older brother and her shoulders are slumped. I mean, where is that little girl that refused to take off her orange jumpsuit because she liked it and nobody and nothing else mattered? Sultanat looks up at her brother and just quietly says, I love him. Aybek goes home alone that night. But he does not stop trying, and it practically consumes him. How to get his sister out of there. Yeah, okay, he can drag her out there, right? Kicking, screaming, but then what? He just holds her hostage until she realizes how horrible Bishanbay is. So now he needs to come up with a plan for his sister. He's looking for apartments to rent for Sultanat. He's looking for therapists who can talk to her and show her that this is not a normal relationship, but she won't see the therapist. She believes she can fix this relationship. But everything has a price. The price that Sultanat had to pay for sending that photo to her brother, because Bishanbay knows that she sent that photo. Bishanbay forced his own wife to strip it and recorded humiliating videos of her for blackmail.
Oh my god.
Did you know that swans only have one partner their whole life?
Yeah.
Swans are incredibly loyal creatures, and that's how Sultanat's parents are described. They're swans. They spent every waking moment and every day with each other, madly in love. This part gets a little complicated, but Kazakhstan was ruled by the USSR, and there was a riot held by Kazakhs to gain control over their country again. Sultanat's dad was one of the people that led a riot. He was thrown in prison for 3 years for basically fighting for what he believes in. And the whole 3 years, Sultanat's mom never, ever thought about leaving him. She was loyal, supportive. She never gave up on him, even when he was like, go live your life. 3 years, you're so young. Sultanat is growing up seeing this like once in a lifetime love. I mean, she knows that it's not just something that happens. Even when times are dark, you have to push through. You got to be there for your partner because that's what's love. You
That's
never
what
give
she
up on the
thinks
person
she's
you
doing?
love. And Sultanat felt like, well, if her parents did that, she can do that with Bishanbaiv, even though he does not deserve it. On top of that, Sultanat is incredibly connected to Bishanbaiv's 4 kids from the 2 previous marriages. They love Sultanat. They spent a lot of time together, and I don't want to go as far to say that she saw them as her own, but she was a very maternal person.
Anand?
So there's like a million reasons why Sultanat is staying, and Sultanat does start confiding in her brother, though. After the March incident, she does confess that Bishanbaiv was constantly controlling, not letting her go anywhere, work, or do anything for herself. He banned her from using Instagram, and there were times where Sultanat did leave Bishanbaiv. She left him about 8 times from March 2023 to her death about 8 months later in November 2023. But Bishanbaiv always drew her back in. I mean, he knew exactly what to say, how to behave. Aibek would text his sister pleading her. He would text her, think about just yourself for once and answer this. Are you happy? Is he worth it? You can always come and live with me. I will pay for the mortgage if necessary. I can support you, give you all your living expenses. Because again, Bishanbaiv forced her to quit working. We will live normally. We need you to be happy and whole. I love him. He can kill you. I can't live without him, I swear. Talk to a psychologist, show her the photos. I won't be able to live if I get divorced. They will explain to you, Sultanat, that this is not love. This is some kind of mental disorder. Please don't report it to the investigators, please. He broke you. No, you don't know anything. It was my fault from the very beginning. You don't know our relationship history. I will kill him. No matter how much you love him, Sultanat, I will never allow him to treat you like that. He's my husband. He does everything for me and my happiness. Sultanat's brother would get so frustrated with her. He would say, I mean, the impact that she had on people. I mean, she helped everyone but herself.
I think one of the reasons why she was so consistent that all of this was her fault and he was doing right thing for her is his ability to persuade people. I mean, if you have been a minister, you don't just become minister because you are good at one thing. It's a very, I mean, we all know what kind of post a minister post is and what kind of people do say on it. We know that you need to be very persuasive and very manipulative to be able to sit on that position. You can't just go and sit on that because you are good at managing the country and managing the government. No. It takes a lot of manipulation, a lot of persuasion, and a lot of thinking. If you can do that to the whole government, making one girl believe in your words is not a problem for Bishanbaiv.
No, divorce does have a negative stigma literally everywhere in this world, Kazakhstan included. But I don't think that Sultanat meant literally everywhere in this world, Kazakhstan included. But I don't think that Sultanat meant the divorce text as in, oh, I'm not going to be able to live with myself after divorce because of the way people think about me. I think she was convinced by Bishanbaiv that she could not live without him and his so-called love. Regardless, Sultanat's parents told her and made it very clear that divorce is welcomed in this situation. I think they, like most other parents around the world, could agree they would rather have a divorced daughter than a dead one.
Yeah.
The night before Sultanat's murder, November 8th, 2023, Sultanat was not having a good night. I mean, this is not the way that it's supposed to go. She spent a long time getting her makeup ready for the night, not because she cares that much, but because Bishanbaiv pays 2 times more attention on her makeup and outfits than she does. And when he notices something, usually the night doesn't end well. She had planned this whole date with her husband, Bishanbaiv, and a mutual friend of theirs, Ada. The whole thing was exciting for multiple reasons, mainly because Sultanat's friends barely ever had time with her anymore. I mean, at first, all of her friends thought that Bishanbaiv was a very demanding husband. Sultanat was expected to cook 5 dinners a week for him, get up early whenever he gets up in the morning to prepare him a breakfast and a coffee. She would have to keep the house. She would have to go to networking events with him. She would have to help him take care of his children, take care of her body so that she looks presentable as a politician's wife. I mean, there was a lot that she had to do, Or at least that's what they thought initially. But then she slowly starts confiding in them that Bishambayev was physically abusive. Her friends don't even know what to do. I mean, she would tell her friends about what he was doing, but she would also say, please, I don't need you to save me. If you try to, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm trying to make this work. I'm going to heal him. I'm going to bring out the best in him. I just need your support. Bishambayev would play into Sultanat's feelings. He would tell her all the time that she changed his life. And before her, he was a cold, loveless man. He said, I didn't realize I could be a loving, caring, kind man until I met you. You're the one that brought out everything good in me. All those qualities, I'm changing for the better because of you. Basically stating that he's a broken man, he's a cruel, evil man, but she's thawing out his ice cold heart. She just needs to be patient because it takes time and he might relapse. Her friend described it as being on an emotional seesaw, is what she sees Sultanat go through. He gives her enough happiness and hope so that she stays, but then it gets violent again. Sultanat told a friend that
when he sees that this is going in a way where she is about to get fed up or she's about to leave, he uses his words and he start giving her some hope that no, this is actually working out, and just with a little patience you can do it more and we can work out. So like I said, manipulation. He knows how to use his words. He knows when to use his words.
Bishambayev loves her, but he only knows how to love maniacally. Friends said that there was this rule that they were not allowed to text or talk to Sultanat first, because even if there were messages not about Bishambayev or anything weird, if he so much as saw her having a conversation with someone else, it would turn into a full-blown fight. Also, this part is very strange, but it makes sense in such a sick and twisted way. Bishambayev, almost every single night, would do this thing where he keeps Sultanat up all night long, just talking to her about his life, his work, his theories on, I don't know, philosophy, just yapping away. And if she tries to doze off or wants to go to sleep, he would get violently aggressive. Sultanat would end up severely sleep deprived, but somehow he would get 3 hours of sleep and go to work and function consistently. I have a theory that he was sleeping at work.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
But Sultanat, she would get 3 hours of sleep, and then he would have a whole day of things that he needed her to do. So she's like severely sleep deprived.
A different kind of
all the
torture.
time.
Wow. And that's one of the worst
Because
type of torture.
Yes.
That is, I was about to say that, because if she is sleep deprived and her mind is not working properly and in her best way, it's hard for her to come up with a solution. It's like he's keeping her mind busy and deprived so that she has no time and she is not able to think for herself.
Sleep deprivation.
Like, he just refuses to let her sleep. She mentioned this to her friend. On one occasion, she was trying to get a good night's rest. She was trying to sleep early. He woke her up in the middle of the night and showed her an explicit adult video because he was staying up to watch porn, explicit videos. And he's like, this girl, her face is not in the video, but her body looks just like you. Is this you? Like, it's so unhinged, right? A whole night long fight. And there were so many identifying markers that was not Sultanat. Like, she's like, look at that mole. I don't have that mole.
Crazy.
Like, what are you saying? But he's like, this is you. Sultanat had this feeling that if she just had children with Bishambayev, things would get better for two reasons. Bishambayev does seem happier when he's around his kids most of the time. Not all the time, but in general, right? And maybe having a kid makes him recenter his life and focus on what's actually important. But also, it would help with his insane jealousy. He was always accusing her of cheating on him, being in love with other men, and this was her way of showing him that she is dedicated. Like, this is her family now. But she couldn't get pregnant. According to some friends who went to the doctor with her, the doctor stated that her body was in survival mode, in a heightened state of high levels of cortisol, high levels of stress all the time. There was no way that she was going to get pregnant. She also was not eating a lot. Even a housekeeper brought it up to Bishambayev's attention once. Like, Sultanat is not hungry, but she needs to eat more. Back on the night of November 8th, 2023, the original plan was Sultanat was going to wear one of those Max Mara pantsuits, because Bishimbaev really liked those. And they were going to go to Kazakhstan Central Concert Hall in Astana to watch one of Bishimbaev's favorite musicians. Now, they do make it to the concert hall. Sultanat's wearing her Max Mara suit, but she also has tears streaming down her face, and Ada, her mutual friend, is confused on how to even comfort her. Right when they walked into the concert hall, Bishimbaev walks up to a young, strange woman and kisses her on the cheek right in front of his wife, does not introduce her to Sultanat, and the two, Bishimbaev and this woman, walk off together and disappear for 40 minutes right in front of Sultanat, doing God knows what.
So they're arriving at the concert hall. She's crying already.
No.
He's bored.
She's happy, walks in, and then he walks over to a young woman, kisses her on the cheek, and just walks away with her.
Okay.
Why?
And so during that 40 minutes, she starts crying with her friend Ada. I mean, clearly, this is not any sort of innocent...
Is Stephanie wearing contacts? Why do I feel like she is wearing contacts? It does not look like her usual eyes color.
Situation, because Bishimbaev cheated on her constantly, and she knew. She found out. So what is he doing? That's how Bishimbaev decides to start the evening. According to Sultanat's friend that was there, I mean, it was the beginning of the end of the night. Because by the...
Doing it behind her back, obviously, it's not good. It's not good to cheat. But when you're hiding something from them, from your partner, if you're doing it, it at least means that you care enough that they don't know about it, because you're afraid they'd get upset and they'd get... Which is not a good thing, obviously. I'm not saying that it's okay if you cheat and don't tell them. What I'm saying is, in this case, he does not care about her so much so that he doesn't care if she gets upset. I mean, he's cheating right in front of her eyes. He's not trying to hide it. He doesn't care if she gets upset. He doesn't care if she is, angry at him or what. He just does not care at all about her. And he's telling her, you mean nothing.
The time that Bishimbaev came back, Sultanat is in tears, and Bishimbaev drags her out of the concert hall.
In front of everyone.
It would be the last time Sultanat's friend would see her alive. Sultanat and Bishimbaev arrive at the BAU restaurant after they leave the concert. I guess the plan from Bishimbaev's perspective is to talk things through or just to yell at Sultanat and eat a late dinner. Sultanat, she just wants to leave. She wants to go to her brother's house and stay with Aytbek. She's done with Bishimbaev. Around 12:30 a.m., Sultanat tells her husband that she's called a cab and she's done. She's going to leave. But he follows her outside and won't let her. He brings her back into the building. Later, we see footage of them near the exit door and she's on her phone. He's pressing up against her, trying to grab at her face. He's hovering over her. It feels like he's watching every micro movement. Like even just watching I can't breathe. The CCTV footage, I mean, at least the ones that show of them, because most of them have been deleted intentionally, it just shows him like hovering. Won't let her away, like out of his sight. Just it feels suffocating.
Kept on grabbing her face and forcing her to look at him.
The CCTV footage, or at least the ones that show them, are deleted from 12:30 a.m. to around 5 to 6 a.m. But a security guard in the building does make note of the couple. He has to stop Bishimbaev from trying to drive home completely drunk. He says that he took Bishimbaev's keys from him and called Bishimbaev's cousin, the one that came to the New Year's Eve party. Yes.
Cousin B.
Cousin B. Now, a few things to note. It is clear that this whole plaza, this whole building, I mean, the whole town, they know who Bishimbaev is. The security guard does not let Bishimbaev drive home because perhaps if something were to happen to Bishimbaev, he would be the one responsible because no one's going to blame Bishimbaev. But he doesn't call Bishimbaev's parents or even the police. He calls Bishimbaev's cousin, Cousin B. Now, Cousin B manages this whole building, and some of the units are owned by the Bishimbaev family. If not, the entirety of the building is owned by them. At around 6:30 a.m., Cousin B wakes up to his phone blowing up. He angrily picks up the phone. It's the security guard from the building. Bishimbaev and his wife just try to leave, but I didn't let them because he was beyond gone. I mean, he's wasted. He's so drunk. He's in no state to operate a vehicle. What? Okay, yeah. I'll be right there. Cousin B hangs up, and he does not be right there. He goes back to sleep. A little while later, he gets another call. This time it's the manager of the BAU restaurant where Bishambaev and Sultanat are. The restaurant manager is nowhere near as nice as the security guard. They're practically screaming into the phone, Bishambaev is here again and his wife, and he's making this whole scene screaming around the place nonstop all night. None of the employees that came during the night shift to do repairs can even get to work right now. So at this point, the restaurant is closed for business, but they can't work. There are employees there trying to fix up things and do some repair work. Nothing, they can't do anything. We're not going to be ready for when the store opens if this keeps happening. Okay, got it. I'll be right there. But he does not be right there. He goes back to sleep. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, it is believed a huge fight has broken out between Bishambaev and Sultanat. And I don't even know if fight is the right word when it's completely one-sided, but Bishambaev starts physically assaulting Sultanat, taunting her for the fact that he bought all of the clothes that she was wearing. So remember how from
Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha, 22. Let's get back.
1 a.m. in the security footage, she is fully dressed in a pantsuit and a black puffer jacket. At 7 a.m., she is completely under her jacket. Well, Sultanat, at this point, after what happened in the concert, after everything in this relationship, she is over it. She is exhausted.
She took
She's
her
done with
clothes
this
off?
cheating man, his pettiness, his violence. She can't do it anymore. And he starts being like, I own you. I own everything you wear. I bought that. I own your life. You are me. You have nothing without me. And she just starts taking off her clothes because she's like, then take it. I don't want it anymore. I want to leave and I want to go stay with my brother. I know that some netizens might think that that action is very strange, but
No, it's not.
I think you
I
really
understand
don't know that feeling.
the frustration
That feeling of
and
whatever. Honestly, I just don't want to do this anymore until you've been in any
Yeah.
sort of remotely similar situation.
She's in a position of she just wants to leave.
She just wants to.
yeah.
So whatever he's saying, like, take my clothes
Yeah.
so that I can leave.
Yeah, you say you bought it? Okay, have it. I just want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Around 7:17 a.m., so about 20 minutes after the manager calls cousin B, Bishambaev is seen on CCTV cameras kicking his wife on the ground of the restaurant. It is mentioned by experts that it seems very deliberate that he was kicking her near her unprotected private parts. Bishambaev continues the torturous kicking her
Does
near
it
her
say?
unprotected private part.
It is on the video. It's visible that she comes out and shout at me.
Bishambaev continues the torturous assault by dragging her by the hair into bathroom stall number 1. It is believed that Sultanat was able to
I
at least
tried to look for the videos. I remember she said that they were in the Rotten Mango Source Note, but I couldn't find it. There were just so many links, and it was hard to find which one the video contained the videos. I don't know if it's actually available or not, but I wanted to look into it so that I can understand the gravity of the situation. I already understand, but I wanted to be more understanding of his actions, but I couldn't find it.
least briefly get into the bathroom stall without Bishambaev and lock herself in there, but he does beat down the door. He breaks down the entire
Oh,
door.
okay.
He remains in the restroom for about 50 minutes with Sultanat. He is seen coming out of the restroom. He's caught by CCTV cameras.
So this whole time, there's people around.
Restaurant workers,
Yeah.
manager.
He's beating her all night.
and
She's
they see
probably
it?
crying, screaming into the bathroom door, locking the door, trying to hide, try to shield, try to get out, try to run away, and nobody called the cops. Besides, they just called the cousin twice.
Yes. I think that they felt perhaps even if they called the police, it wouldn't have done anything. I'm not sure
Because
why
of
they
his
didn't call the police,
position.
honestly. I do think they would lose their jobs. They'd probably never get a new job again after
But-
that. And then the police wouldn't do anything and it would just be a mess.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
still,
I guess.
It's maybe
but
their
still.
perspective, but still, it's crazy to know that there are people there. This is not some like warehouse, desolate restaurant with nobody. He is seen walking
If
out
I
of the
have to
restroom,
lose
caught
my
on
job
CCTV.
and I see something like this, if I I don't know. I don't know. I've never been to such a situation, and I'm sitting here and thinking what I would do and what I would not do. But that's what I think I would do if I have to lose my job. But I have two options: either lose the job or report it. I even if I think that the police would not do anything, if if I don't have any better option, I'm gonna call the police. Not because mm, I've, even if I know that they might not do anything, I'm still gonna call it because at least it would make me feel like I did something, I tried something at least.
Cameras, and this time he is shirtless. He grabs a bottle of alcohol from the bar.
Wait, he came out of the restroom shirtless? Get bare
Okay, we
chest?
all
Bare chest.
know what he did.
He then goes back into the restroom with a bottle of alcohol, where Sultanat is still in the restroom, and he stays there for an additional 70 minutes, where he continues to not only beat her, record her, make these humiliating videos of her, degrade her, but also grab her by the throat to strangle her. At one point, she does lose consciousness, but comes back to, and he continues to beat her further. It is around this time, 9:30 a.m., that Bishambayev calls his cousin, Cousin B. The same one that already got the security guard call, the manager call, and now he's allegedly very vague on the phone. Bishambayev just tells his cousin, come to the restaurant and bring some blankets. Cousin B shows up 3 calls and 30 minutes later at around 10 a.m. with 2 duvets. He walks into VIP room number 1, where he sees Sultanat laying on the couch. I mean, the whole place is a mess. There's broken dishes scattered around the room. There's drywall
Can I see
laying on the couch.
Okay, we have this one. Fine. I think this is where they found her body. There are some marks here. I don't see no couch. Maybe that is the couch. It's not the restroom though.
I mean, the whole place is a mess. There's broken dishes scattered around the room. There's drywall that's just like dusting onto the furniture, and the toilet door in the restroom is broken. Bishambayev does not even address the state of the room or his wife. He just orders Cousin B, put the blanket on her. Bishambayev tells his cousin that Sultanat, his wife, is sleeping. That's why he asks for him to bring the duvets, the blankets. He just needs to cover her up. Which
But
makes
does he
sense
think that
if you have no common sense. Cousin
Can't
B
he
walks
see?
up and places the blanket on Sultanat. This is 3 hours after the footage of her being completely beaten in the restaurant hallway. So likely she's bleeding and has dried blood everywhere. But Cousin B
She
acts like
wants to
suddenly
make it.
he can't see a single thing. He later tries to argue, well, she was
she
dead.
might have
I felt like it would be too
bruises
rude
as
to
well.
stare too closely, so I just walked over and I squinted my eyes while I put the duvet cover on her. But he does hear her snore. He describes it as being pretty loud, strong breathing noises. He thought, okay, snoring, drunk, maybe it makes sense. Which, this part is from Cousin B's perspective. This is what he claims happened, but he is nowhere near as innocent as he tries to make himself appear. Cousin B is like Bishambayev's handyman. If there is a door, table, piece of furniture broken from Bishambayev's violence, Cousin B would be called to fix it, and it's very clear he knows what the damage is from. So this whole, I didn't know Sultanat was in pain, she was dead. It's not very believable. At one point, while he's adjusting Sultanat's position on the sofa, because Bishambayev instructed him to, Cousin B notices 2 things. 1, Sultanat's eye is super swollen and red, but he does not look further around because he said it would be rude. 2, he feels Sultanat grab his hand and squeeze it very tightly. He said it's like she was trying to tell him something, that she needs help, some kind of signal. And it was so strange. At least Cousin B thought it was so strange. So what does he do? He gets up and he walks out of VIP room
There's
number 1.
nothing.
2.5 hours later, a little past noon, November 9th, so this is probably at least 12 hours since the couple have been in the restaurant, Bishambayev texts Cousin B on WhatsApp, instructing him to delete all the footage from the security systems, all the CCTV footage. He wants it gone, he wants it deleted. 15 minutes later, Bishambayev even goes all the way down to the security room to check on Cousin B deleting everything. They do manage to delete a lot of the footage, but not all of it. And again, Cousin B has an excuse for this. He says, well, Sultanat was dead, and I thought the 2 of them were just having wild, intimate adult sessions in the restaurant all night and just walking around. So of course Bishambayev would want those deleted, and of course, as his cousin, I was going to help him.
So that's why he wanted the whole thing to be live streamed?
Yes, because he thought that they deleted everything and he could convince everybody he had nothing to do with it, and Sultanat was a mentally unstable, cheating wife who took her own life.
And then backfire because the footage was
Yeah.
still there. Wow.
Not only the footage from the CCTV footage, but his phone footage. Like, there's so much evidence. And I think that's scary that he has that much confidence. Then Bishambayev asks Cousin B to
Stupid
find
Christian
Sultanat's
fool.
phone and drive it around town. He tells Cousin B that Aitbek, Sultanat's brother, has been tracking her phone, and if he sees that she's been at this restaurant for too long, he's going to get suspicious, show up, and make a whole scene about it. This is around 2 p.m., so they've been at this restaurant for like 12 hours. They find Sultanat's phone, and Bishambayev instructs him, go to the gym across the street, that's the one Sultanat goes to, then go back to the apartment and just like drive around town with the phone.
This is like the type of action you do after someone has been murdered.
Killed, yeah.
This is like 12 o'clock is when he instructed delete security footage. So at this point, she's still in the room.
Still in the room. The worst part is we know that she was actively being killed and beaten for 8 hours, but it does appear that she stayed alive for a while after that as well. Basically just slowly
Okay.
dying. Cousin B leaves and Bishambayev sits there and starts making a series of phone calls. One of them to his most trusted advisor, his psychic. He's complaining and freaking out a bit that his wife is not waking up. The psychic would later say that he sounds freaked out, but clearly he's not that freaked out. Because at 3:30 p.m., Bishambayev is seen on CCTV footage eating a whole full-blown meal
Right.
in the restaurant with an influencer while his wife lay
God.
dying in a VIP booth nearby.
Who's this influencer?
She's an ethical vegan, according to her blog. She's like a food blogger.
Is it just
No
a woman that
picture?
he's seeing right now?
That's a whole thing. Okay. This whole lunch date, this whole meeting, if you will, is going to get really crazy. I'm going to tell you about it in a second. So while he's doing that, Cousin B calls a doctor. And Cousin B asks, hey, doc, can a person sleep for a very long time while they're drunk? There's a woman that drank and is sleeping, but she's not waking up. Doctor's like, well, how much did she drink? We've been drinking till this morning. Well, I'm not a drug specialist, but alcohol intoxication is very dangerous. I think that you guys should immediately call an ambulance. Cousin B mentions, but she's snoring, which it feels like he called already knowing what kind of answers he wanted. And the doctor is like, again, I don't think it matters if they're snoring or not. Alcohol intoxication is very dangerous. Call an ambulance. They hang up. He does not call an ambulance. Soon after, the influencer leaves from their little lunch date, which whole conspiracy, okay? The influencer, the food blogger, whatever you want to call her, would later state that all they did was talk about her potentially promoting BAU, the restaurant that they're eating in, because she's a food blogger, and Bishambayev's mom basically owns the restaurant. She said that her and Bishambayev barely knew each other. They met each other at the golf course, and he wanted her to advertise his restaurant for him. But the thing is, she's got like 10,000 followers, which is
Yeah.
a lot, don't get me wrong, but you're talking about Bishambayev here. He is not lacking in influence in the local area.
Yeah.
Additionally, two things are very strange about this meeting. One, after the lunch meeting, the blogger messages Bishambayev, by the way, you smell like roses. Which I don't know
Okay.
if you just send that to someone that you just
No.
met and you're only meeting them for business related conversations.
No.
She will later state that she sent it accidentally and it was meant for somebody else. Some netizens believe that they already had somewhat of a relationship going on and perhaps she was
flirting
his
with
mistress
each other.
already or was on her way to be. Then
Yeah.
there's this whole conspiracy about the lunch date. Some state that from not too close up, the influencer slightly resembles Sultanat. If you don't have a very good camera, which CCTV cameras are not known for their 4K quality, there were rumors that Bishambayev requested the blogger to put on some of Sultanat's coat, like her blazer, and walk out of the restaurant to make it appear as if Sultanat walked out on her own alive. Coupled with the fact that her phone is driving around town, it seems like maybe he was hastily putting together, allegedly, according to the conspiracy, hastily putting
evidence.
together a plan to get away with murder. Both conspiracies, that she was his mistress and that she was set up as Sultanat's body double to leave the restaurant alive, are not proven. Regardless, he's having lunch with a woman in VIP room
Alleged.
4 while Sultanat is dead, if not on the brink of dying, in VIP room 1. After the blogger leaves, Bishambayev and his cousin realize that Sultanat is not awake and she is not responding to either of them. That is when Cousin B brings in the bottle of smelling salts, the ammonia, instructed by Bishambayev, and tries to put it under Sultanat's nose to wake her up. And like I said, NFL players, it can knock out an NFL player. It's crazy. It's not working though. They're placing it right under her nose, no reaction. Bishambayev kind of cares. Like he cares, but he doesn't care. He eventually tells Cousin B, it's fine. It's all good because my psychic told me that Sultanat is going to wake up. She's just resting her brain. And then he looks down at his phone and he starts texting away. He starts texting another woman. So far, he's contacted his female psychic, had lunch with a female influencer, and then he starts texting an alleged worker. Her name is saved as Yulia Super on his phone, and allegedly she's a worker that's very popular amongst wealthy businessmen, and he messages her around 7:07 p.m. Now, just to clarify, they got there the night of November 8th, and now it is November 9th, 7 p.m. They've been there.
What happened? Add?
Been there nearly a full 24 hours. At 7:07 p.m., he messages Yulia, "What's up? Are you free?" Then he texts the psychic to ask if Sultanat is still conscious in her mind, to which the
I need some time to get over my anger. I was actually, I was so angry that I started spacing out. I wasn't focused on the story because I got so angry. But let's get into it.
psychic tells him, "Yes, she is." Ding! His phone rings again, and now the influencer has texted him. The one he just had lunch with texts him, "You smell like roses." Then 10 minutes later, ding! Yulia, the alleged sex worker, texts him, "Yes, I just got my lashes done, but I'm free. What time?" So while his wife lay dying, after he tortured her for almost 10 hours straight, he calls his psychic, eats breakfast with his cousin, eats lunch with his female influencer, then texts an alleged sex worker to make plans to meet up. And then by the end of the night, he finally calls an ambulance. They would not arrive until 7:55 p.m. on November 9th. So Putin was supposed to come around 6 p.m. All of that got canceled, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why it cleared up. They can call ambulance and stuff.
Yeah, because Putin's no longer coming.
Okay.
Like to a different place.
Yeah, because I mean, his guards can't even get into the restaurant. They won't open the doors.
Right.
Okay.
I see.
Okay.
They arrive 8
That's
minutes
why he
later, and the
waited
3
so much.
paramedics said it was really bad. They walked into the VIP room, and there was a woman laying on the sofa of the VIP room, covered with a blanket. They said that they had never seen somebody that badly bruised in their entire lives. She is covered in bruises and blood. They tried to resuscitate. One of the paramedics noted while they're drenched in sweat, trying to save Sultanat's life, her husband Bishimbaev and his cousin are in the corner just talking about something. The paramedic even goes as far to ask them to leave the room so that they can have no distractions. But it was too late. Sultanat had no pulse, and in just another angering detail, Sultanat's eyes were wide open and her pupils were dilated.
They didn't even
She was
close her
pronounced
eyes?
dead at the scene,
So when they came, she has already passed.
and her eyes are open.
Bishimbaev and the cousin did not give a crap.
No, they're like, she's sleeping, she's resting her brain. Initially, Bishimbaev
Okay, now I understand what she was trying to say. I thought she was angry that they did not close her eyes. I mean, it's a sign of respect for the dead that if the eyes are open, you close them before video mortgage kicks in and you cannot close them anymore. I thought she was trying to implement that thing, but it makes sense. They kept on saying that she was sleeping. She was sleeping. How do you sleep with your eyes open? I know some people do, but I don't think she was the one who slept with her eyes open.
states that his wife fell on the toilet, hit her head, and died. He literally goes on a whole press tour with this fantastical story. She hit her head on the toilet and then went to sleep in the most bizarre self-exit that the world has ever heard of. But none of that makes sense. Sultanat has injuries all over her face and head, practically covering every single inch. She has fresh wounds from that night, but also wounds from 2 weeks ago, 1 month ago, all in various stages of healing. So it's very clear that she was being abused for a prolonged period of time. She also sustained a shattered nose the night of her death. A shattered nose is pretty much as bad as a broken nose can get. Her nose is not broken. The bone is not broken. It's not cricket either. It's completely shattered. Her nose bone has been shattered into dozens of pieces. Her entire face, left ear, behind her ears, chin, eyes, they all had abrasions and bruises. Her chin had an open wound. She had hemorrhages in the soft tissues all over her face. And in a really grim discovery, Sultanat was found to have been suffering from a subdural hematoma, meaning that there was a buildup of blood in her brain. Subdural hematomas can be life-threatening, and you need immediate medical care if you have one. Sultanat's brain bleed happened a month prior to her death. There was just a pool of blood. Her brain was bleeding. A month prior would have been around October 9th, October 10th. October 10th was also the day that Sultanat left a letter for Bishambaev, and she hoped it would be her last letter. It reads, "I'm leaving for good this time. These days I realize that there are no more feelings. I don't want to save anything anymore, and I can't."
I've seen so many cases. So many cases. And obviously, I only listened to Stephanie's video, and so many cases she has covered where you would get into this abusive relationship, and it's the same thing. I think I was saying the same thing in another video. Uh, you do, when things start getting violent, you move away, come back, move away, come back, move away, come back. And you, and the tragedy happens when you finally decide that I'm gonna move away. Whenever they feel like this time you're not going to come back, whenever they feel like this time, no matter what they say, you would not be pursued, you would not be manipulative, they tend to get into this stage. I mean, there was another case that she was doing where I think it was the unicorn killer, and it was the same thing. She was like, I can't do this anymore, but then he manipulated her, came back, went away, came back, went away, came back. When she decided that this time I'm not going to come back, when she decided that this is it, and he figured out that she really won't be coming back, he killed her, just like this case.
You didn't even apologize or do anything about your betrayal. Allegedly, she had come home one night and saw that the bed had eyelashes, lipstick, and makeup on it, their marital bed. And in the toilet bowl, she saw 2 used condoms. The note continues, "You blame me for everything and insist that I see some sort of psychotherapist. You're so blind, I can't stand it anymore. Forgive me, forget me, and just let me go." She writes about how Bishambaev's mom and his psychic keep whispering in his ear about Sultanat and how he chooses to believe them over her. And she said,
His mom?
"After analyzing our marriage, I realized that everything is going in circles. Prove to me that it wasn't, that you can love me, that you can be faithful, honest, and caring. I will prove to you that I will be a good wife and make you the happiest you can ever be. I don't want to believe articles in these books," because they read books that stated that he's a narcissist. And he openly admitted it. And she said, "I don't want to believe those. I want to believe you. And because I was jealous, because of the blackmail you had, because I was not protected in any way, I kept apologizing. But you decided to get rid of me. But then that didn't work and we got back together. But now I will get rid of you. I will take a walk. I will walk around, look for a replacement for you. And if I don't find you, I'll come back, okay?" Which, that last part has been picked apart by some netizens. It sounds like her repeating something he says often to her. It seems like he always says, "Oh, I can just walk around and find a replacement for you." Because it's just the way it's said is very much like, okay, why don't I do it now? To which Bishambaev just responds to the emotionally raw letter with, she screwed herself up by reading some articles and books. Saying she read articles and books and got in her head.
When did he say this?
In court later.
Wow.
But that was around the same time that her brain bleed took place. Bishambaev was arrested at the restaurant November 9th, 2023.
Oh, come on.
Even his
Don't make that face. What?
Bishambaev was arrested.
What is this way? According to the network.
arrested at the restaurant November 9th, 2023. Even his arrest was a controversy. There is body cam footage that was played in court after the arrest, where the officers walk Bishimbaev into the police station, uncuff him almost immediately, let him out back outside, and they're all, him, police officers, smoking cigarettes underneath the moonlight like they're old pals. Then one of the officers tries to sympathize with Bishimbaev. He knows that his wife is brutally killed in the restaurant. He knows that the whole VIP room has been torn up, and he just says, she probably provoked him. She was probably nagging.
Oh my
Aybek,
god.
Saltanat's brother, had just gotten his food delivery. He was sitting down at his dining table, and he was taking a few days off work because he had come down with some sort of bug or flu. He can't even make his own dinner. And he sits down.
I'm sorry if I keep looking away here, there, down from the video. It's just I'm very, very much angry right now.
And his fork is mid-air when his phone starts buzzing. A mutual friend. And she's screaming, she's nervous, she's like, what's wrong? Is it happening? Is it true? Is it true? Do you know or not? Where are you? Did this happen? And he's so confused. He's like, you need to calm down and tell me what's going on. She's like, check WhatsApp. He checks WhatsApp, and someone from the police force had leaked information that a couple had gotten into a fight at the BAU restaurant, and one of them has sustained fatal wounds. Aybek starts calling his sister, no response, so he calls the emergency dispatch. He's calling them and he's telling them about the WhatsApp post, and they already know who he's talking about. They cut him off in the middle of his explanation, and they tell him, go to the BAU restaurant, you'll find out more, but we're so sorry for your loss. He goes into complete denial and shock. He tries to reason with himself the whole drive to the restaurant. I mean, first of all, the dispatch center, they don't know the real-time news and updates. They're probably wrong. On his way to the restaurant, their dad calls him, and he just tells his son, Aybek, in the most serious voice that Aybek has ever heard, you go get Saltanat, you take her away, and look after her in the hospital. So they think that maybe she's just injured. Aybek hangs up, and the cab pulls up in front of the restaurant. He basically jumps out while the cab is still pulling up, and he's running inside the restaurant, trying to get up the stairs. The police are screaming after him, like, hey, what are you doing? Who are you? What are you doing? I'm her brother. They told me to come here. They called me. They said my little sister is here. What's going on? The officers suddenly get very quiet, like they don't know how to respond. And instead of explaining to Aybek in a way that is...
It's just always so difficult to break the news to the family. And I think it's a very hard part of the job that all doctors and all the police officers has to go through. Breaking the news to the family that their loved one is not in this world with them anymore.
Makes sense. They just blurted out, we're so sorry for your loss. And that is how Aybek finds out that his little sister was killed. But even then, he still doesn't understand. He's screaming, what do you mean? What do you mean? What's happening? Where is she? The cops just keep repeating, I'm so sorry for your loss. Aybek said that he lost himself for a few minutes there. He sat down and he knew that he needed to make that call. He's got to call his parents and somehow tell them what happened. He calls his dad, and it's kind of like his dad already knew. At one point, Aybek just hears his mom in the background screaming.
And I just lost myself for a couple of minutes, sat down, and I knew that right now I have to make a call to my parents and somehow tell it to them. I called my dad. As far as I understand, he answered me like on the louder. So when he was asking, so what happened, he was already crying. I said that it's all true, that Saltanat was killed by the defendant. And at that point, I heard like, I said that it's all true, that Saltanat was killed by the defendant. And at that point, I heard like my mom started to scream. That was the night. And then the police officers took me to a precinct, so I put it my paper report, did all the paperwork that is needed. And that's the story, how I found out.
When Ayberk comes back home that night, he just remembers, I have to go to sleep because tomorrow is so busy. I have to go to the morgue and see my sister. I have to call some attorneys and make sure my parents are okay. And it's just going to be a very busy day. But he's laying in bed and he's not falling asleep. He said it feels like the mattress is almost eating him alive. He just keeps sinking deeper and deeper into the mattress, like it's a feeling of falling. And he said, and I quote, "The world was just leaving me, and I'm just falling apart." Sultanat's brother and her closest girlfriends are standing in Sultanat's old closet in Bishimbaev's apartment. This is right after her death, so I imagine their grief is at the highest peak. They're here to gather all of Sultanat's belongings, and they're all being thrown onto the ground right in front of them by Bishimbaev's sister. You want her shit? Take it. She's throwing each piece of clothing onto the floor. Look at all the things that my brother paid for, bought for your sister, went out of his way to purchase for your sister. She's taking each piece of clothing off the hanger and throwing it on the ground in front of Sultanat's loved ones. The whole day had just been a series of insults. The first was when Bishimbaev's family and his 2 defense attorneys refused to let Sultanat's family and her friends to get in to get her things. Bishimbaev's sister was absolutely vile the entire time. She's screaming at Ayberk through the door, "If you come inside, I'm going to plant drugs in here and act like it's Sultanat's." Basically insinuating that she is going to further slander Sultanat's name. Eventually, Sultanat's family called the police. They forced Bishimbaev's family to let them in to get Sultanat's things. At one point, Bishimbaev's mom just keeps complaining over and over. I mean, she's saying that this has been so stressful for her recently and her blood pressure is through the roof, and she keeps saying, my blood pressure, my blood pressure. Ayberk was so sick of this, he just turns and he snaps. My parents are in the hospital for a heart condition right now because of what we're going through. Bishimbaev's mom shuts up for a little bit, but Bishimbaev's sister starts screaming at Ayberk. So what? So what? Eventually, the group make their way to the kitchen, and now this apartment has been sealed off for weeks. No one was allowed in. Bishimbaev's mom she marches over to the stove, grabs a pot that still has food in it because that's how it was left when Sultanat died and before it was sealed off. It's been there for weeks. It's like boiled meat stew. And because nobody was in the apartment, it is completely spoiled. She grabs the pot of rotted meat, shoves it in Ayberk's face, stares at him, and spits. Look at what kind of housekeeper your sister was.
This is so vile. This whole family is so vile.
I don't know what to say.
The scariest part of the encounter, though, is that while they were leaving, Bishimbaev's sister kept screaming, "You will never prove that he killed her. You'll never prove it. You'll never, ever. She did this to herself. She beat herself up and threw her body up against the wall. She did that. You can never prove it." It's very obvious the Bishimbaevs do not have a soul, and they are going to fight dirty to try and get away with murder. But Ayberk is going to fight. Ayberk knew, of course, that there are some things that you can never unsee. The state of his sister's body, learning about exactly what happened, what she went through during her not even a year-long marriage. You start digging and going down the path. You're going to find videos, witness statements. And once you know these things, you can never unknow it. It's going to be with you forever. But Ayberk is going to fight for his sister because his sister was the one that told him. He was going to help with change. You know, and he didn't believe her then, but maybe he does now.
He was the first person who told me that I'm doing my job in my life, that I have different meaning in my life, that my meaning is providing the help. I see what she was doing.
Oh, this is the picture that she sent him.
The Bishimbaev family have access to not even just some of the most, but the most powerful people in the nation, in Kazakhstan. Forget money. I mean, the power of those connections is almost infinite. And of course, they're deploying their financial resources as well. They're buying out journalists. They're trying to buy the media into running the story that they want, running the narrative, paying people to start writing salacious stories about Sultanat that never happened. They're executing a full-blown smear campaign against the victim that Bishanbayev killed. Aytbek, Sultanat's brother, said, "We are facing a really tough enemy, one who is capable, who is smart, and who is financially powerful." One of the first times that Aytbek laughed after his sister passed was when he was reading the news. And it's not a good laugh. In Korean, we have a word called oyopso. It just means so ridiculous that it warrants, you can do nothing but like let out a laugh. It was one of those laughs.
I just did that many times in this video.
Nothing's funny about this, but Aytbek is just laughing because his life feels over already. He lost one of the few people that he cares about. It was one of those laughs. Nothing's funny about this, but Aytbek is just laughing because his life feels over already. He lost one of the few people that he cares about. What next? Because plastered all over the news at that point is the allegation that Aytbek tried to essay Bishanbayev's 10-year-old daughter. The word pedophilia is thrown around in every article, but Aytbek feels numb, truly. Like all he can do is laugh. Yeah, okay, Sultanat threw herself up against the wall. She hit her head on the toilet seat. They're going to plant drugs to slander her name. Aytbek did what to a 10-year-old? I mean, there is nothing too dirty, too low for these people. Within, I want to say, not even a few hours, a new social media post about the allegations against Aytbek start going viral. It was made by Nazim. Nazim is Bishanbayev's second wife. Nazim is mother to that 10-year-old. She comes forward on Instagram to discuss the allegations made against Sultanat's brother Aytbek. She stated, "It is clear someone wants to discredit the brother of Sultanat, the murder victim. It is so easy to slander and slander for them. No conscience, no soul, no heart. These false allegations make Sultanat's death 100 times more painful. And now in order to protect even my minor children's honor and dignity, I am forced to defend myself and my daughter publicly. My children have not only lost their stepmother, Sultanat, whom they loved dearly, but also their father, Bishanbayev. Some kind of demonic show is going on, and they have already tried to throw me and my daughter into the furnace." Bishanbayev's second wife and the mother of the 10-year-old girl exposed the allegations as being entirely false. And in case, let me just be clear, the allegations made against Aytbek are entirely false, have been debunked, even by the 10-year-old's mother. And I know that some Bishanbayev supporters might try to spin this narrative. I don't think he has any supporters. The journalists that he pays might try to spin the narrative that, of course, the second wife doesn't like Bishanbayev. She divorced him. Of course, she's going to go against him. But when they were married, Bishanbayev was on trial for bribery and corruption. Remember that trial? She was his attorney.
What? The wife was the attorney?
She's a public defender. She was his attorney, and she went to war for this man in court.
Okay.
Someone who is familiar with both cases said the second wife, Nazim, she fought like a tigress in his previous legal battles for Bishanbayev. Do you think that she would remain silent if someone tried to essay her daughter? But that didn't stop people from Bishanbayev's side for pushing this narrative out. Aytbek said the worst part about the allegations for him, though, honestly was the fact that Bishanbayev was willing to use his own daughter, a minor, in these dirty games that he's playing, using his own daughter like an instrument in the media. It's very unfair to this 10-year-old child who's already going through a lot. Side note, remember that fight between Sultanat's brother and Bishanbayev at the apartment when the brother got the pictures?
Yeah.
This is so telling. But Aytbek said during that fight, he did not see Bishanbayev as aggressive and as powerful as he was in the CCTV footage of the restaurant. Meaning, when he's fighting someone his own size, when he's on equal footing physically, he's not that brave. Nazim, Bishanbayev's second wife.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Michael. I know it's not a good comparison. Michael is just a character, but he reminds me of Michael from Marry My Husband.
Released a text message from her daughter that she shares with Bishanbayev.
The 10-year-old?
Yeah, and the 10-year-old had texted Sultanat April 2024, 5 months after Sultanat's death. And she is still texting Sultanat, her stepmom. And the message reads, "I miss you very much. Dad is a terrible person. It is a terrible and shameful thing to do to beat women. And I love you." Bishanbaiev's ex-wife released the message to the public. She also released Sultanat's very first message to her, which I'm sure it's very tricky to be the new young wife, to reach out to your husband's ex-wife. But Sultanat texted Nazim, "Hello Nazim, this is Sultanat. I am grateful to you for the fact that your children treat me so well. I am sincerely impressed by them. They are very kind and well-mannered. I know that that is your achievement, and I treat you with only the utmost respect. If you don't mind, I would love to get to know each other sometime." Nazim, the ex-wife, would make a public statement after Sultanat's death. She said, "Almost 6 months later, after Sultanat has died, my daughter still texts her. Sometimes she will text Sultanat pictures of her food that she's eating, her favorite dessert, and other times she will try to call Sultanat, but there is no answer."
Do the kids know?
They know. Yeah.
Just can't accept it.
Nazim, like I said, that defended Bishanbaev during his corruption trial. But now she's defending Bishanbaev's third wife, her children's stepmother. She told the press about her relationship with Bishanbaev. It was horrible. He would steal her phone from her, throw it in the toilet so that she can't contact anyone for help. He would grab the toilet seat. You know how it's kind of bolted on there? He would yank it off, tear it off the toilet, and throw the whole porcelain seat at Nazim. She would have to run away and lock herself in the kitchen. He would pound on the door till it felt like it was going to break down. She didn't even know what he was capable at this point. He had these explosive tendencies. If Nazim did not sew his buttons on his shirt perfectly, he would get violent. If his socks were not washed to be the absolute crisp white socks that he preferred, he would get violent. Nazim never knew when he was going to get violent, what mood he was going to be in, and he was just so toxic. She also mentioned that he kept her sleep deprived. And even while she was his defense attorney during his corruption trial, he was having a full-blown affair. Every day, Nazim said she lived in fight, flight, or freeze mode, and she felt that Sultanat likely had a very similar experience. Except, for some reason, Bishanbaev let Nazim go. Maybe it was for the children, maybe he was already having too many affairs that he can't even count, or perhaps for no reason at all. When Nazim requested a divorce, it was somewhat amicable, and the two would remain co-parenting. Nazim was able to get out with her life, but Sultanat would not. Bishanbaev is very interesting in the sense that he just never gives up. I mean, every single allegation is debunked, refuted, but he is still pumping out allegation after allegation against Sultanat's family, alleging that they're getting paid for interviews. They are not. We interviewed Aytbek, Sultanat's brother. There was no monetary exchange in any sort of way. He spoke with us after a long day in court, running off of 2 hours of sleep. He still spoke with us because we wanted to know more about his sister. I asked Aytbek, which accusation has Bishanbaev made that hurt your family the most? Honestly, yeah, I was expecting the pedophilia one. But he responded, all the allegations against us, we are here to face it and answer. We can break the allegations with facts and documents, say this is a lie, show that this is a lie. We can show the truth, we can fight for ourselves. But Sultanat is not here to fight for herself. She's gone. And now they're trying to make my sister's name as dirty as possible. She was an alcoholic, addicted, drug addicted, stuff like this. She was a slut, she was an escort. Bishanbaev would say these words. She was fucking this guy, she was fucking that guy. We're all in the courtroom and he's saying these things.
It was hard to hear, but when he started putting that lies, that kind of lies, like at some point we start laughing, and it became simultaneously. Like my parents behind me, and I was sitting like at the desk, and when he said some lie, we've been so much laughing. It was not everyone understood why we laughed, but only because his accusation is so absurd, and we are seeing that he's putting his words in Sultanat's mouth. So he's saying that she said that she did that, while in real it was on the contrary, his mistakes, his dealings, his words, and that's crazy, but it also hurts.
Bishanbaev has made it his life mission to smear her name through the mud. He alleges that Sultanat had mental health issues that she inherited from her father. He stated it was a, quote, nervous disease passed on by her father. On top of that, he stated that Sultanat was drinking, using drugs to help with her mental health problems, but that only made it worse because she was self-medicating. That's why she was so unhinged. He was just trying to save her. Sultanat's family went to a doctor to show proof that there is no history of mental illness in their family. Bishambayev also claimed that she was on antipsychotics. That's why she died the night of her death, because that mixed with alcohol was not good. She was never prescribed any antipsychotics, and there were none in her system when she died. Not that it would matter either way. Then the allegation changed to, oh yeah, well, Sultanat was just a raging alcoholic who just binge drink nonstop. She just gets violent when she's drunk. She was dancing on the table and she fell off and hit her head. Yeah, and then she would hit the wall, she would hit the toilet. She was just a messy, messy drunk. The autopsy clearly states the extent of her injuries could not have been caused by a single fall. A number of her injuries could have been caused prior to the day and time of her death as well. Her toxicology screens were clear and her blood alcohol levels were so minimal they could not even suggest impairment. Not that it would matter. Obviously, the autopsy results do not lie, but Bishambayev does. So he changes his tactic. He's like, forget science. Let's go with gold digging. The narrative starts being spread that Sultanat is just a lazy gold digger who is never happy. She never had enough. She wanted more. But what does she have to be upset about? Bishambayev buys her jewelry, clothes. They have a personal driver, a housekeeper. She's living the life. She has nothing to worry about. She never worked. He claims all she did was just lay around all day doing nothing. She wouldn't even lift a finger for him. If he requested that she even spend time with him, she would get violent. He said, I never forbade Sultanat from work. She herself retired from work. Groceries would be delivered straight to the front door. That we had a personal driver. On average, I gave her about $11,000 a month for spending allowance. To give you some context, the average yearly income of a Kazakhstan citizen is about 9,000 USD. So that's like if someone here were to say, oh, I gave her a monthly allowance of $68,000 a month. Clearly, this is not the type of, quote, information that is going to make the average Kazakhstan citizen relate to Sultanat. But the thing is, it's probably not even true. Bishambayev conveniently cannot prove that he supported Sultanat financially because it was, quote, all in cash. And Sultanat's friends and family reported that she was always asking to borrow money. It seemed that Bishambayev would only buy her gifts that he wanted her to be in to make him look good. He wants her to wear expensive clothing because it represents him. She moves in with him, so he's not giving her any.
Also, maybe he would buy her gifts whenever he feels like she is, drifting away from him and she is like thinking of moving on or getting away because of all the abuse. So one of the tactics that usually the abusers use when trying to manipulate the victim is they would give them expensive gifts and would keep on reminding them that look at how much I love you, kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that they are financially stable, the victims are, because it's a gift. You can't sell it to have money, because obviously the other person who gave it to you is an abuser, and they found out, it's gonna be a bad situation, and they do not get any money other than the gift. So the gifts are just useless. They're not gonna help you at all with any financial problem that you're facing, even though your husband's really, really rich and the ex-minister. So the only option I believe she had was to borrow money from her family.
Financial support. She's just under his control. Additionally, that might be why they never officially registered their marriage. He did not want her to have the legal rights that a wife would have over his assets and income. Bishambayev also tried to allege that Sultanat only dated married men. She was a homewrecker, and when he found out about it, he confronted her and asked her why. Why must you live like that? She responded, she needs the money. He claims the truth is bitter. Bishambayev would not know the truth if it hit him in the face. But sadly, some people ran with this narrative. Some netizens commented, yes, if she hadn't been so eager to marry someone so powerful and just married an average guy, she probably would be alive right now. Then there were allegations that Sultanat was cheating on Bishambayev, and apparently she was.
These netizens, I understand not all of them like that. If something like this happened in Pakistan, and there are netizens who are writing things like that, the person from outside would think that most of the people are like this because of the culture and everything. But no. I know that it's only 1 or 2, not even 5, it's only 1 or 2% of the total population and the people who are invested in this case. But still, what are those 1 or 2 people thinking?
Pregnant, clearly false, and also very easily disproven with the autopsy that she was not pregnant. I mean, the whole thing is a massive smear campaign against Sultanat. As of right now, he has this whole new story for November 9th. He states that, you know what, my version 1, let's forget about it. Remember how he stated that the Sultanat had self-exited? The words were, quote, by falling and hitting her head on the toilet and then went to sleep? Yeah, version 1, he said that was a lie, okay? Like, that was before I saw the CCTV footage. That was before I found out that you guys still have the CCTV footage. Okay, so anyway, the evidence is there. Obviously, he's beating, punching, dragging, kicking his wife to death. And
She
also the
wanted it?
autopsy states that the results of her death were not a self-exit. So now his new version is, I did beat my wife. But the beating was just kind of like a regular married couples fight. He did not beat her with, quote, particular cruelty or intent to kill. He said that he was just fed up with her after 8 hours of mentally unstable wife berating him, nagging him, rubbing the fact that she was cheating into his face. He said all night long she was attacking him.
Говорит мне вслед, я ухожу в сторону, она начала материть меня в спину. Это меня спровоцировало. А вообще в целом вы тоже должны понять, что на протяжении там с 9:30 до там...
Wait, I need to do. Okay, no, I'll do it later. I'm gonna show this video, only this part, to my mother. I'm gonna ask her, does she understand what he is saying? Like, I'm really curious to know if my parents understand this language. I believe so. They will not be able to, because even though they sound similar, Uzbek and Kazakh are completely different languages. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll ask them, and if she can, I'll put it at the end of the video. But if I do not put anything, it means she cannot.
3:30 я вот 6 или 7 часов просто слушал. 6,5 часов я вот подвергался такому.
Physically,
Yeah,
mentally.
you were. There's a difference between psychological abuse and physical abuse, and dying from physical abuse. And even if, and she didn't even put you through psychological abuse, you were the one who put her through it. The audacity to lie after people have seen the footages.
Emotionally for 8 hours. So he beat her. But he wasn't trying to beat her to kill her. He states that she had prior injuries and prior health conditions that was the cause of death. And likely
Which
his
were
beating did
by
not
you.
help, but it was not the cause of her death. Medical examiners found nail marks on her neck that looked like she had been choked, and Bishimbayev had a whole explanation for that. He said that he was just so desperate to find a pulse on his loving wife, so maybe he was searching too hard that his nails had dug into her neck. He said honestly it's kind of Sultanat's fault anyway though, because Sultanat was drunk, she lost her balance and fell several times, and it was quite messy, and as a result she was hit, indicating in such a flippant way, if his wife is drunk, which she was not, and acting a bit messy, which she was not that it would matter, then of course she must be hit. He continues, she ran into the bathroom stall, closed it from the inside. I start knocking on the door. She's insulting me through the door. She said, this is all your fault. You're the one who brought me to this state. I didn't understand. I was confused. And then, the excitement and aggression started. I knocked on the toilet door first, and then I started punching the door. The door is thick, so I start hitting it with a tripod from nearby. And I get in, and I hit her a few times, but again, with no particular cruelty. And as for why he called a psychic instead of calling for help for his dying wife, he said, yeah, that was a big mistake on my part. He also states about beating his wife to death. It was difficult for me to accept Sultanat's death. However, I do not accept the guilt of brutally killing my wife, Sultanat. You may hate me, curse me, but before God and before you, I am ready to answer. I loved Sultanat. When I struck her, when I hit her, I clearly understood the main thing was not to harm her, not cause any harm, not to hurt any important organs. I had a feeling of some kind of internal restraint, caution in this regard. I was back. I was on the alert. The only thing I want to say is there was no intent and no particular cruelty. And not all the injuries were caused by him. Bishimbayev said she threw herself at objects with her fists and legs. I've never seen anything like it. I think we can operate under the assumption that anything Bishimbayev says Sultanat did, he did. He's basically putting his actions into Sultanat's words, which are all fake. Okay, all of his toxic, violent behavior, he is now saying on the stand that Sultanat was the
Was
one that
the
did
one
that.
who
And
did
we're not
it.
dumb. There's one story he shares in court about how Sultanat is incredibly forgetful and always forgets where her car keys are. So one day he tells Sultanat, hey babe, why don't we just find a place for your car keys? One singular place that you always put them so that it'll be very easy and you'll never forget it. He claims she blew up on him, started cursing him out, screaming, don't tell me how to live my life. How dare you? Who are you to me? So we can assume Bishimbaev always loses his car keys and becomes violently aggressive when someone gives him sound advice. Bishimbaev stated that Sultanat had these insane mood swings. She would blow up his phone if he didn't respond. She would demand that he show her every single inch of the room that he was in on the video calls, show her every single face of every person he was around to make sure nobody was hiding behind the couch or something. If he told her he would be home at 8 p.m. and he was pulling it at 8:01 p.m., she would become violently enraged and aggressive. So we can assume from that, Bishimbaev would FaceTime Sultanat and demand to show him who she was with at all times. Side note, he would also have his house staff all spy on Sultanat while he was out of town or gone for work. Now, Bishimbaev says about the CCTV footage of him beating his wife to death in the restaurant. On the video, it's visible that she comes out and shouts at me. I walked away and she
So?
starts cursing at me from behind. That provoked me. Overall, you should understand that from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., I just listened for 6.5 hours. I was subjected to severe psychological violence.
I don't understand. First of all, I know for sure from everything that has happened in this video that that is not the case. And even if that is the case, okay, let's assume he is telling the truth and she shouted at him, still does not justify what she did to her. Even if she shouted at him and you were saying that you loved her so much and everything, you go around and beat her to the death just because she shouted at him, it does not justify it. And like, it doesn't even matter because this is not the truth.
I said, Salta, calm down. I was so angry that we had this fight. I started kicking chairs, tables, letting off steam in the VIP lounge. He also stated that at one point Sultanat fell down and he starts kicking her in the thigh and buttocks area. And mind you, like I said, she's nude, but he justifies himself with, I understood that I couldn't and shouldn't hurt any vital organs and that's why I kicked there. The trial is incredibly difficult for Sultanat's family. They have to sit there and watch the prosecutors mark on a mannequin head where all of Sultanat's injuries, fractures, and wounds are. I mean, it's everywhere. To even just read out the full list of injuries on Sultanat's body, it took the prosecutors 40 full minutes in court. A female police officer just
44 minutes just to read out the injuries she had.
got so frustrated, she even asked Bishimbaev on the trial, why could
Occupational of the cerebellum and the medulla of longeva.
you just simply have left her alone? Why couldn't you just have left her in the restaurant and gone home peacefully and none of this would have happened?
Yeah, if
There
you're angry,
were
just
so many
walk
ridiculous
away.
moments in this trial, and it's not even over, it's ongoing. And probably the most infuriating part thus far is Sultanat's brother Aytbek was asked by the court whether or not his little sister, this is by the defense attorney, whether or not Sultanat, his little sister, liked to be dominated or was the dominant one in relationships. At some point, or really a lot of points in the trial, the question seems to be less of, did Bishimbaev commit murder? And for some insane reason, the question is almost, well, did Sultanat deserve to be murdered? At another point, Aytbek, Sultanat's brother, becomes physically
Someone
ill
deserves
after
to
seeing and
be-
hearing about his sister's cause of death. He runs out of the courtroom to avoid, I don't know, projectile vomiting in the courtroom, and the judge reprimands him by saying he needs to ask for permission. He can't just leave and go and come and go as he pleases. At one point, I can't believe this is real life, the defense tried to submit pictures of the VIP room from the night of the murder to show that the state of the room is not that bad. The furniture is not that broken. It does not look that crazy. It looks normal. Here, look at this picture. It was discovered very easily that the pictures were taken March 28th, 2024, and not November 9th, 2023. So they just took those pictures, like, just now. And we're like, here, this is from the night of. When the prosecutors called the defense out on it, the pictures mysteriously went missing from the case files. The defense also filed a petition to let their private forensic pathologist present his findings to the court of what he believed was the true cause of Sultanat's death. But the date of his report, April 2nd, 2024. Sultanat was killed November 9th, 2023. Basically, the defense gave the specialist some papers, and he was like, you're right. He did not cause her death. The court denied the petition, to which Bishambhai's mommy spoke out in court for the very first time, and she said, if you do not accept our examination here, then I believe the constitutional rights of my son that he must defend himself and provide his arguments for the defense will be infringed upon. Please understand me as a mother. I speak from the bottom of my heart.
No, you
You
don't.
have no heart. So, moving on. The defense also requests that the prosecutors stop using the word murder when talking about Sultanat's death. And he's so emotionless when he just makes up these crazy lies. Except there were times he would be smirking and smiling during his testimony.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
He would smile and laugh, and later his attorney had to, quote, explain his behavior by stating,
You want to learn new data skills because
No, I
your
don't.
job, but you don't have time to learn new data skills.
Not
I want
very
to explain
lovely.
why my client is smiling. When he remembers the happy memories with Sultanat, he smiles. And Bishambhai
Oh,
and his
come
attorneys
on.
are not ashamed to play dirty at all in this trial. April 8th, 2024, they presented a note to the court. They alleged that it was written by Sultanat. They're like, Sultanat wrote this, okay? So 6 months before she was killed, she wrote this note. And this is very fascinating, very believable, okay? The note was written by Sultanat, but it was not found in Sultanat's notebook. It was not found in Sultanat's house. It was found in Bishambhai's mom's house, in Bishambhai's mom's notebook. And it conveniently reads, I, Sultanat Nukionova. Because who doesn't start every letter like that? I, Sultanat Nukionova, I promise to restore my faith in Bishambhai. I promise I will trust him. I will not be jealous. I promise to regularly visit a psychologist and work on myself, work on my trust. I will be sincere, obedient, and respect Bishambhai. I swear I will trust his opinion and believe that he wishes me the best. The letter was so unbelievable, the prosecutor even remarked, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this trial we have a statement from Sultanat herself to the court that the toilet is to blame for everything. Even the judge addressed the court and stated, it is the first time I have ever seen a wife give her husband such a promise and written commitment. AKA, I don't think this is real. The judge refused to enter the note into the case file as evidence. The psychic that he called the day of the murder was also called in to testify. And it's just so strange because the psychic told Bishambhai that Sultanat was okay.
Yeah.
But she's in a different town and she never even saw Sultanat. Not saying it's her fault, but I thought you're a psychic, right? That's kind of how the court is approaching this. They ask her, well, how did you know she was fine? She responds, well, when he asked about her, I kind of entered into her. I can't explain these situations and these sensations, but I entered into her state. And what I felt, I said.
She
She was
felt
asked,
like she
do
could
you have
be
superpowers?
tortured and live on
Well, a
for
little. I mean, not so
more
much.
time,
Every
right?
person has this ability. That was pretty much it. Restaurant employees also testified. They said Bishambhai was just a terrible person to be around in general. Even before November 9th, he would walk into the restaurant. They were instructed never look him in the eye. Oh, yeah. He would just lash out at you for no reason at all. They reported hearing banging from the VIP room and screaming for help, to which the defense, Bishambhai's attorney, said the employee that reported hearing the banging, well, he works with guns, like staple guns for construction, so he could have misheard. The food blogger that met with Bishambhai the day of the murder was called to testify. She was asked, did you know Bishambhai was married? We didn't know each other that well. You were together for 1.5 hours having lunch. What were you talking about? Why do people who don't know each other that well meet up for lunch? We just talked about everything. Did you smell alcohol on Bishambhai? He was normal. I wasn't sniffing. Sultanat's
I
assistant.
thought you say you smell like Rose.
That was an accident, she would later claim. Yeah, her whole thing is very suspicious as well. Sultanat's assistant testified and confirmed Bishambhai was constantly violent. She said the first time she saw the marks were July 5th, 2023, 4 months before Sultanat was killed. Sultanat was covered entirely in bruises. She could also see red markings around her neck, and she demanded to know what it was, and Sultanat responded that he tried to strangle her with a rope. One of Sultanat's friends presented a text message to the court during her testimony, and it's from Sultanat. It reads, "I feel sorry for Bishanbayev. He's really injured and sick, and I kind of tried to help him, but I think I'm ruining myself." And the terrifying part of this is that one of the only reasons Bishanbayev is even on trial right now is because the Nukianova family has been successful in raising awareness and demanding
Was it me who was hearing those?
a fair and open trial. December 2023, a year after Sultanat and Bishanbayev were married, a month after her death, Sultanat's dad wrote an emotional letter to the president of the country. So this is the president right after the one that Bishanbayev was the assistant for.
Mm-hmm.
He was begging the president to not let his daughter's murderer, a high-ranking official with money and connections, escape justice. Meanwhile, Sultanat's brother Aytbek launched a social media campaign, and it's likely that the public attention really helped get this case to trial. The trial started March 27th, 2024. Bishanbayev was charged with murder and torture. He is facing 20 years to life. Cousin B was charged with concealment of a crime and faces up to 6 years in prison. But again, is there really a fair shot at justice? There's a rumor going around at the detention center, that's where Bishanbayev and his cousin are being held, that once the lights go out, Bishanbayev and cousin B are allowed to roam around out of their cells. Meanwhile, Sultanat's family is completely shattered. Sultanat's dad was hospitalized pretty early on during the trial. His body could not take on the stress. Sultanat's mom had to sit there and listen to Bishanbayev had the mic for hours, just slandering her daughter. At one point, she gets up from the second row and she starts screaming. And she doesn't even sound angry. She sounds so exhausted. Like, her voice is agonizing. To some extent, it almost sounds like she knows nothing she says is gonna matter. Bishanbayev is not listening. She screams, "I haven't seen my daughter. I didn't get to bury her. I haven't seen my daughter. How can you say that you beat her without particular cruelty? How can you say such a thing? You were killing her for several hours. 8 hours you were killing her." Usually the courts are pretty strict on not allowing any sort of outburst in court, but it seems like everyone had a slower reaction that day, and they let Sultanat's mother finish most of what she had to say. The whole time, Bishanbayev does not even look at her. He's just sitting there. At one point, he side glances at her and squints his eyes like, wow. It's almost like he's watching a stranger at a grocery store throw an unwarranted tantrum that he's too classy to even look at. And then he turns away and just stares at the ground.
Я свою дочь не видела, не похоронила, я лицо ее не видела. Какой без особой жестокости ты ее бил.
He's nodding.
Лицо ее не видела. Какой без особой жестокости ты ее бил. Как ты можешь такое говорить? Ты убивал ее несколько
Так, пожалуйста,
часов, 8 часов ты
пройдите.
ее убивал.
Пройдите в другое помещение. Прошу вас.
As of
I listened to. Okay, I wasn't reading what she
Я
said.
свою дочь не видела, не похоронила, я лицо ее не видела. Какой без особой жестокости ты ее бил. Как ты можешь такое говорить? Ты убивал ее несколько
Так,
часов,
пожалуйста,
8 часов ты ее
пройдите.
убивал.
Пройдите в другое помещение. Прошу вас.
As of filming this video, the trial has continued on, and it's pretty unclear when the jury will deliberate. Aytbek, Sultanat's brother, said the biggest thing that Bishanbayev cares about right now is the public's opinion of him. Now, I would never suggest anybody leave any sort of hateful comment anywhere. I don't think that's appropriate. But I do think it would be very nice if we all went over to the live stream trial and commented our honest opinions of Bishanbayev. Also because just to show that everybody's watching this, that everybody cares, and everyone is going to hold every single person in that room accountable if justice is not served. Bishanbayev will be remembered as a Nepo baby lying killer, while Sultanat's legacy is, well, there's so many things, but one of them is a monumental law that was passed, appropriately named Sultanat's Law. Signed by the president of Kazakhstan in April of 2024, it strengthens protections for women, increases punishments for assault, child abuse, and essay for minors, as well as bullying. This is a huge deal, considering in 2017, Kazakhstan had previously decriminalized beatings and minor physical damage assaults. And a lot of that mainly impacted domestic violence, meaning you could assault your partner and just get a small fine or a weekend in jail.
Why did they do
Sultanat's law reverses that and increases penalties and charges for offenders. Bishambayev is facing 20 years to life in prison, which honestly, I don't know if that matters because last time he was sentenced to 10 years and let out in 2. And the most infuriating part is that had Bishambayev been forced to serve his full sentence, he likely would have never met Sultanat. I asked Sultanat's brother if Sultanat was watching over him right now, what he thought she would say to him. And I don't know if the question was too much. I told him he could skip it, but immediately his eyes went up as if he was seeing Sultanat. And he said, I just hope that she would say I'm doing the right thing in terms of justice, in terms of, I believe she would tell me that I'm doing good. Yeah, I hope so.
I don't know how to answer this. I hope that she would say that I'm doing the right thing in terms of the justice, in terms of I believe she would told me that I'm doing good. I hope so.
I feel like through this case, Aytbek has almost turned into an older brother figure, not just for Sultanat, but for a lot of women in Kazakhstan. And I think Sultanat would be very proud of him. And also smiling about his birth charts because she was right. I'm going to link his social media down in the description and in the comments so you guys can get the latest updates from him, but also to show support. There were a few scammers trying to use Sultanat's name to get donations, but as of right now, there are currently no fundraising campaigns or donation systems set up for Sultanat's case. But if that changes, you're going to find out through Aytbek. I also asked him what we can do to help. If there's anything, just one thing that we can do. And he said, when everything first happened, a lot of people messaged me asking me how they can help. And there's almost nothing that people can do to change the fact that it already happened. But a lot of women reached out to me saying that they need help. They are telling me that they understand Sultanat and they're living her life right now, so their lives are in jeopardy. They are in abusive relationships. Aytbek has already set up a foundation. I believe it's like a system where if someone is being abused by their partner, they can message a group of people that can pick them up and take them away safely. So they're working on building a structure to help women in these types of relationships. But he said if there is one thing that we can do here in America is be more kind to each other. Provide help to those in need. That will be the best way to respect Sultanat and the things she did in her life and the sacrifices she made. But I do think that there is one other thing we can do. I think we can keep an eye out on this case. And if Sultanat does not get justice, I think we can raise hell. But that is it for today's episode. What are your thoughts on this case? And please stay safe. Go follow Aytbek on Instagram. Let's stay updated on this and let's talk about this case. So with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Please be safe. Bye.
Bye. I really hope that Sultanat, Sultanat rests in peace, and I really hope that her families do find patience, and that's all I can say about this case. It's a tragic case, and Stephanie is right. Even though Bishambayev have gotten 20 years in prison, but looking at his background and looking at all the cases that we have been through, it's very likely that he will get out before that, way earlier than that, and you can do nothing about it. I hope that he, as a Muslim, I believe that even if he does not get punished in this world, he is going to get punished in the next one. And that's all. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.